Welcome to part 2 of Inequalities, and there's a little subtitle. So this is not a new page of notes. This should just continue from what you did, but you can make a little kind of line and have this one start with a little mini title called Solution Sets of Compound Equations and Inequalities. And we're going to start by explaining what it means for something to be compound, like it groups two things together in such a way. And we're going to start by explaining the difference between and or. And in this first English example, someone could say, it is Thursday or it is Friday, and it's possibly true. It only has to be Thursday for it to be true, or it can be Friday, and it's still true. So this one is true. We'll say it's true. We'll pretend it's Thursday or Friday. I know it's probably Tuesday or Wednesday, but in class when we do this, it'll be true. In number 2, it is Thursday and it is Friday. Well, that's totally false, and it will always be forever and always, because it can never be both things at the same time. So that's the difference between using and or in an English sentence. In a math sentence, it starts off with an and. So basically, if we learned anything from number 2, is that when you use the word and, both things have to be true. So we do this little math problem here. We get 3 plus 5 equals 8. Well, that's true. I know that's true. 5 is less than 7 minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. 5 is less than 6. So since they are both true, the whole thing is true. All right, and what we learned from the or in number 1 is that only one thing has to be true for the whole thing to be true. It's why they don't let you pick more than one multiple choice answer in a test. Otherwise, you just pick all 4 every time, because one of them's got to be true. So in here, 3 is less than 9. That's true. So I already know the whole thing is true, even though 6 plus 4 equals 10 is not 9. So even though this is false, saying 3 is less than 5 plus 4 or 6 plus 4 equals 9, it's true. So the whole thing is true because only one part needed to be true. So there's another true. So technically, the first one should have been false because it's neither Thursday or Friday when I'm doing this, but who knows when you're going to listen. So we'll pretend it was Thursday or Friday. And when we do the compound sentences, and uses less than, I picked up my black marker, which is actually white, uses less than symbols, so it would be something like this, and or uses greater than symbols, something like this. And you'll see why in a second. We'll come back to this to add more to it. But let's see what's on the next slide here. We have x is less than 3, and x is greater than negative 1. I'm actually going to jump to the graph here. So negative 1 is less. I'll put 3 over here. Again, don't worry about what's in between them or making a nice even scale or anything like that for now. X is less than 3. So we know x can't actually be 3 because of what it said. And it's less than, so it's going to go to the left, but I'm not going to write it in yet because I want to see what this says. X is greater than negative 1. So again, open circle, and it goes to the right, so they kind of meet here in the middle. So every time you get an and statement, you get the in-between stuff. And I know I said on the last page, we'll go back for a second, it uses less than, and this one says less than and then greater than. There's a reason for that, because this is split up. So we're going to put it back together. So what it says can also be written as, we're going to rewrite it as one sentence with x in the middle. So x is less than 3. I can still say that. But the other one, I want to kind of switch to the other side. X is greater than negative 1. So if negative 1 is over here, and I want x to be greater than that, I make the alligator eat the x. I don't know if anyone remembers it that way, but I do. So it still says x, if you read it kind of starting here and going backwards, x is greater than -1, and that's exactly what this says. So I kind of pretend I'm on the other side of it reading x is greater than -1. So that would be the compound sentence. That is the same as saying and in between. All right, for number 6, we have an or statement, and it's x is less than -4. So I'm going to put a -4 right here. I'm going to put a 0 over here. X is less than -4 means I go this way, not including -4. X is greater than 0 means it's this way, not including the 0. So notice now the arrows go to either side. And we see why it's an or statement, because you can't have x be both of those things at the same time. If x is less than -4, it can't also be positive. So we're going to make that a compound sentence too. And on that first slide when we wrote greater than or greater than, that'll look familiar now. So I'm going to put my x in the middle. I'm going to put in this part first. I know that x is greater than 0, but it's also less than -4. So when you see them facing to the right, that's an and statement. And when you see them facing the left, that is an or statement. I jumped ahead in our notes to 14 and 15 just in case you're wondering about the numbers, because I thought it was a good mix of the two things.
Okay.
Miss O just interrupted me. She's so rude. Alright, and then this says two things at the same time. And it's kind of hard to solve an equation two different ways. So what we're going to do is do -1 is less than or equal to 3 minus 2x. And then we're going to say the right side now. 3 minus 2x, oh my gosh, the kids are screaming down the hallway, is less than or equal to 10. So if you notice, I used this part in both inequalities. Alright, on the left side, we're going to solve for x, and on the right side, we're going to solve for x, and we'll decide if this is an or an and statement. -3, -3. Alright, so I got to be really careful because I'm going to divide by a -2. This gives me 2, but I got to switch this to be greater than or equal to x. Alright, but I like to read it x first, so x is actually less than or equal to 2. I'm not going to graph anything yet because I don't know if that's the bigger number or the smaller number. Over here, I'm going to take away 3 from both sides. I get -2x is less than or equal to 7. This one's not going to work out nicely. Let's see. Divide by -2. Again, I'm dividing by -2. So x is now greater than or equal to -3.5. Alright, so which is smaller? -3.5. And 2 over here. So now, and then I'm either going to fill in the middle or point them in opposite directions. The one on the right here says that, excuse me, x is greater than, so I want to go higher than -3.5, and it's also an or equals to, so I fill in the dot. And this is probably going to be an and statement. X is also less than or equal to 2, so again I fill this in and I go towards the middle. So this is an and statement. So it could have been written with the word and in between these two statements. Alright, and then sometimes it just gives you the symbol, so I know that these are going to be facing in opposite directions here in number 15. And we're going to solve, it's kind of already split for us, so we can solve for x on this side. We get -1, -1. 5x is less than -1. It's not a pretty one. You get x is less than -1/5. Solve over here. Just add 5, and 13 is less than or equal to x. If you want to rewrite it, it's x is greater than or equal to 13. Notice when I switch sides like that, it's not like an equal sign where you don't have to do anything. You have to keep the inequality facing the same x. So like right now it's in here, it's eating the x. You got to still be eating the x in here. All right, so negative 1/5. Just realized you can see my menu bar at the bottom. That's okay. And then 13 over here. Alright, we have an open circle on the 1/5, but a closed circle here on the 13. And we already knew with the or it's going to go in opposite directions, but I just want to make sure. It says x is less than negative 1/5. Yep. And x is greater than 13. Yep. And I shouldn't say and, I said and. It's or x is greater than 13. It can't be both. So there is a rundown of the basics, and I totally went a little bit over the last video. Hopefully you'll forgive me. We're going to practice this a bunch of class. I'm not going to make you do any on your own. We're already over time. And have a wonderful rest of your evening. Bye-bye.